So lucky, it feels illegal. Quotes Alex Hormuzi. In this video, I'm going to break down one of the most talked about topics in the AI space that's going on currently, which is with AI voice callers. I remember I used to sell AI voice callers back in time, like around a year and a half ago. It was shit. Nobody really wanted it. Nobody talks about it. No, all of a sudden, it just boom, it's all over the place. So as you know how this whole channel is inspired by Nick, and the way that these videos are gonna go, I'm gonna break down a topic or a strategy that I'm testing at the moment, and then we're gonna move on to a Q&A, which I'm gonna pull up the today's YouTube video on tomorrow's video, and I'm gonna answer to any questions that any of you guys have. And today is going to be a special because I'm going to walk you through one of my old AI cold callers that I built around I think like 8-9 months ago to cold call businesses and sell websites. Right. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how to prompt your AI voice assistant. That's something that it wasn't really around. I had to read all the documentation of Vappy to get some chappy fucking not even that good prompting. But after testing, I nailed it down. I'm gonna show you guys exactly how it is. So we're gonna move on to day 5, voice AI. So we're not gonna be in a whiteboard a lot today. We're gonna move on to my Vappy dashboard in here. We're gonna come to website, seller, cold caller. Right at the end of the video, I'm gonna put a snippet of my conversation with the AI voice caller so you guys could hear exactly how it sounds like in real life. And then you guys could take inspiration from it. I'm going to literally walk you through my whole prompt. I'm going to show you guys exactly what model to choose and why to choose that model and etc. I'm not going to waste your time with this. So let's just get to it. All right. So this is a cold caller. What does it mean? It means assistant wait for the user. It means the user that you are calling right now needs to pick up the call and say like, hey, who's this? The assistant is going to talk. Right. So the first message, it doesn't really matter. It based on your use case. You could put whatever you want. And we go to prompting. Right. So prompt has a structures, right? Based on your use case, you could have more, you could have less. In this case, right, we're not gonna book into any calendar or anything. It's just simple, straightforward AI voice caller. So we don't really need that. But let's say if you have a use case that you need to book an appointment into your calendar, then you definitely want to add a tool and then mention that in there. Right. So first part is always identity. Right. You want to give identity to your AI voice caller. The way that I like to explain it to people is imagine AI is a baby, right? AI is a kid, and you're training the AI. You're training it, you're teaching it how to do a stuff. So that's how you need to approach this, right? So first, who is your AI assistant, right? You're a confident, friendly, and a slightly cheeky AI cold calling assistant named Sam from Other Intellect, right? Based on your use case, it could be different. Let's say if you want it more professional, right? Because this is, for selling websites and with literally targeting like a small businesses, it doesn't necessarily need to be super professional. But let's say if you're targeting an industry that it needs to be professional, they want to say you are a professional, confident, friendly, and whatever cold calling assistant from XYZ. Right. And then we're gonna explain the goal. Right. You want to explain the goal of the call. Right. So in here the primary goal is to book a brief 10 to 15 minute Google Meet, a screen share, so we could show the website to them. And then, again, you just need to that you need to keep the same structure. All you need to do is just change the variables, just change the use case. And then the second one is going to be identity and communication style, right? So you want to tell it like what's your role, what's your tone, how your pacing needs to be, and how should you talk, to people. Right, so in this case, sales savvy, sidekick, and website expert, right? Because remember the goal is to sell a website. And then the tone, you want to say what tone should you talk? Warm, charming, friendly, and professional. Use light conversational, savvy conversation, blah, blah. I'm not going to read the whole thing, right? So you want to give a tone, based on your use case, pacing, value, and at the end, I added make sure to have a natural flow and talk smoothly and clear, because sometimes based on your prompt, if you prompt like, let's say, be overly excited, right? Sometimes because I worked on a project with a catering company, and then he wanted the AI to be like more excited about the person event, right? And then when I prompted, like, when they say X, overly excited, like, say like, wow, that's amazing. Like, give it some tonality, like, hey, like you have your wedding coming up, like, wow, man, that's amazing. Congratulations, right? So in order to get that, I prompted like, have like different tonalities throughout the conversation, and then based on the person event, make sure to reply with excitement, right? If the event is suitable for excitement, of course. Let me make sure we're recording. Yeah, we should be recording. We better be recording, right? Of course. So what you're gonna wanna do is, yeah, I didn't even saw. I'm fucking such an idiot. Right, so you want to prompt it like slightly. Like when I did that, when I called, I mentioned like, hey, I have a wedding coming up. The AI used to yell, literally like, wow, like that's amazing. Like it literally used to yell in the phone. Right. So sometimes when you prompt something, you need to either break it down, like how exactly it should sound like, or add a counter prompt, right? That, when you say that, make sure you do this, right? Imagine you're just teaching a kid. And then the next section is going to be conversation flow and objective. Right, so you're gonna just give an overview of everything. You're gonna give an overview of how the conversation should go, like from the start, the midsection, let's say logistics, the things that you wanna say, the goal, where you wanna, mention the goal in a call, and then how it should close the call. Right, so you wanna just give a full overview of how the conversation is gonna sound like. If you want to keep it dynamic and diverse, you don't necessarily need to write down every single word that the AI have to say. But like in this case, I try to just keep it dynamic and just flow. Just this is a goal. This is how a full conversation needs to go. And I want you to be creative and just talk differently based on every single person. Right. So that's how I wanted it to sound like. But let's say if you have like if you're making a voice caller for dental office, I don't even know why I'm mentioning dental office so much in these videos. Right. If you want to do that for a dental office, and of course you want the response to be more predictable. In that case, if you want a predictable response, if you want the AI to exactly just say what you want it to say, then you have to just go down here to temperature. You're gonna lower it to 0.1 or 0.2. That's gonna directly follow your transcript, follow your prompt, then without having any sort of creativity into the prompt. Right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. And then we move forward to objection handling. Right? That's like, let's say if they were like, oh, this is a scam. How the fuck did you build me a website? You're gonna add a response to that. Let's say like, how much is it gonna cost me? And then, we're gonna make sure that the AI doesn't mention any pricing on the first call. Right. So that's how easy. You're gonna give objections, and then you're gonna give solutions to those objections. So the AI knows exactly what to say in certain cases. Right. So again, it's pretty straightforward if you just have these sections. What you could do is just say, go to ChatGPT, type like, hey, I'm trying to build like an AI voice caller. I want the AI to have identity of a salesperson, and the communication style, I want it to be, I want it to be like have a smooth flow, keep going forward, and not to be over salesy. And then conversation for an objective, you just say like, this is a use case for that. Like for example, this is an appointment booker for auto detailing business, and I want you to build up the conversation flow based on that. And then just say like, can you come up with like 10 objections that usually they get on a call, and find a solution for that. and it's literally gonna write the whole prompt for you, so you don't really need to do anything. And then this generate thing is not that good. Don't use it. I never had good experience with it. Right, so that's how you do your prompt. Right, I could cut the video, but I just want to tell you the settings too and what provider, based on my experience, the best provider to use and blah blah. So the best provider based on my experience was Azure OpenAI. If you're new, it's a little bit difficult to set up, but once you set it up, it's good and cheap. Because with this AI voice caller, one thing you want to keep in mind to be cheap, right? Because on the volume, you're gonna open your eyes and you're gonna be like, "Holy shit! I just spent a $200 for a few calls." Right? You need to be careful with that. Like on the down scale, let's say if you make like 3, 4 calls, then you're not really gonna see. But once you start making more calls, then you're gonna be like, "Holy shit!" How the fuck did the cost add up that quickly, right? So you need to be careful with that. And then the model, I choose GPT-4o because these ones doesn't really work for some reasons. And we go down, the max token 250 is good. The voice configuration, I use Cartesia for voice with a custom voice clone that I have. And then you could experiment. 11 Labs is pretty good, but I found Cartesia, Vapi voices are good. But if you want, again, if you want like more personalized, more like a specific voice that you're looking for the use case, then Cartesia have more like humanized, have more emotion, right? Is less predictable and have like more emotion and more inconsistency into the voice, which makes it like human because humans are not perfect, right? But like 11 Labs is pretty popular. Like everyone literally uses 11 Labs. But again, like 11 Labs is good. Cartesian, they are all good for their own use case, right? So you need to keep it diverse. And then we go to additional configuration. The background sound is something that you really want to have because let's say if there is like a empty sound or is like a blank that AI doesn't talk, you want to use a background sound to filter that. And then we move forward to the speed, just keep it default. It doesn't really matter. And then the transcriber is going to be DeepGram, keep it default. Confidence threshold, I have it on 0.4, usually is on 5. And then background denoising, you could turn this on, you could turn this off, experiment with it. Right, background denoising is actually really good, right? So let's say the AI triggers based on any noise, right? So let's say if you're cold calling a contractor and they are out in the field and there's a lot of noise in the back, and you don't want the AI to just cut off what it's saying if there is someone else talking in the background and it's not the actual person. So background denoising is good. I recommend you keep it on. Again, I don't really use this cold color. That's why the settings are outdated. But I'm gonna show you behind the logic, right? And I use numerals. This is technically like is predicts when the convert numbers into words, from words into digits and transcription, right? If you want to use a transcription later on for the for any analysis or anything like that, you could use numerals. But in this case, we don't really use it. And then the tools. That could be another video if you guys really want to deep dive into Vapi. I could show you guys how to set up tools from Centex, high level, how to connect it to your high level, how to new appointment that books directly into the calendar, and all that good stuff. The functions, right? Enable and call function. This is where the assistant ends the call, right? Because if you don't enable that, the call is just going to go on until the person hangs up. Like sometimes, like let's say if you set up the maximum call duration to 10 minutes and then the call, like basically the conversation finishes in the first 3 minutes and then the person in the other side doesn't hang up, then the assistant is just going to keep the call going. The call is just going to keep going on an empty, like no conversation for like 8 more minutes, for like 7 more minutes, right? And it's all going to cost you money. So you're going to be careful of that. And then we go to summary. You're going to prompt it. Like in this case, the way I prompt it, like, you're an expert note taker. You were given chance of a cold call. Your job is summarize, blah, blah, blah. And then this is how to categorize the leads based on the interest level that they have. And then we move forward, timeout, I put 10 seconds, and the minimum number of messages to trigger analysis is 2 messages. And then the success evaluation, I didn't really care because I use make.com scenario to do all this stuff. And then this is a structure data request timeout in second. This is a structure output that you want to have, right? So let's say if you're going to capture any information during the call, so what you're going to have, you're going to come to a structured data and you're going to prompt it. And then the output that you want, you're going to just write it. And then let's say if you want it in a specific format, you could just do this. So it's again pretty explanatory, pretty straightforward. You just need to know your use case and understand exactly what you're making. And audio recording, you want to have it on because you want to listen back to the conversation. Login, you want to log in during the call. Transcript, of course, you want to have it on. And then the format, you could have it MP3 or WAV. And you don't want a video recording because that's usually for the web calls when you install it on the website. And then the HIPAA compliance, this is for the healthcare providers and all that stuff. So if that doesn't match your use case, then you don't really need to worry about it. And then start a speaking plan. That this is all in the second week before speaking. Pretty self-explanatory. I have it on 1 second, right? Because when you start making the voice callers, you're gonna run into issues where the assistant just cuts off the person. Well, let's say the person is talking, and then you just saw my waiting, right? In here, I'm still talking, I'm still saying the same sentence, but I just want to have a little bit of pause. So usually what happens in those little pauses, the assistant jumps in and interrupts. And then the person is just talking, it goes back and talks. The assistant, it's just gonna be a whole shit show. So you just want to have it to 1 second. It's better because we use Azure, our latency is pretty low. It's only 450 milliseconds. Right. So you want to add a little bit of gap to make sure that the person fully stops talking before the assistant jumps in. And then a smart endpoint, just use VAPI. And then here we go voicemail detection. I use Google. Everything pretty much default. There's sub speaking plan, number of words. And then this is the thing, like sometimes we go back to the same thing that I said. So sometimes the number of words that the customer has to assistant stop talking, right? So what happens is sometimes like the assistant is talking and then like for example, I'm saying something that makes sense, and then in the back you're like, yeah, right? And usually on that, you don't want the assistant to fully stop talking because I want to listen to what you're saying. I'm just agreeing with what you're saying. So that's why I put it to 2, which, usually like when someone jumps in, they say like more than 1 word, right? So that's why it filters out that and it makes the assistant to talk smoothly. And stylus thumbs out is how long the assistant is going to wait before it cuts off the call. I put it to 27 seconds. And a maximum duration to 7 or 5 seconds, which is like, I don't know, do the math yourself. I'm fucking bad at math. Right, but that's what worked. So this one, I didn't really touch it technically. The messaging, this is server setting. Like, let's say if you want to send a messaging to another third party to make.com, for example, to do a certain thing, you just put your webhook URL in here and then it does the job, and the client messages, blah, blah. Again, these are all depends on the function of your call and the tool that you're going to run. And a widget, which is something you want to install on your website to have that.
Hey, is this Hernandez Auto Detailing?
Yes.
Awesome. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I actually built you guys a beautiful website, if I do say so myself. If you like it, you can keep it. Is that something you'd even want to take a look at?
How much it is have to pay?
Great question. Our websites are pretty affordable, designed specifically for local businesses like yours so they won't break the bank. We'll share the price when I show you the website. How's that sound?
Because right now I have one, but like I said,
Nope.
I don't know if you.
No worries at all. I believe in giving value first. So if you like what you see, we can chat.